With another loud snore and a flick of his ear, Sombra continued laying on the couch, a book covering his eyes and his left foreleg dangling off the edge of his makeshift bed. His mind and body were exhausted from doing absolutely nothing productive yesterday, and today he wanted it to be no different. Another round of knocks came, forcing Sombra to stir in his half-asleep state. He slurped his hung-out tongue and breathed deeply in through his nose, not wanting to do anything but lay on his poorly taken care of couch. Sombra groaned and turned in his slumber, his book now covering his right ear, in hopes that no more noise would enter his life at this moment. That hope was crushed with another round of knocking. Putting his hoof to the top of the book to help, but to no avail. It took 5 more knocks for Sombra to weakly open his eyes and take the book off his face, his head craning to the door that was behind him.
Okay, I'm coming.
Rolling off the couch, landing on the wood floor with a thump, before sitting up and stretching, popping his back in the process. He sighed and took his first step, almost falling over in doing so. With a loud yawn, he made his way to the front door of his apartment, having many thoughts on who was at the door. He rubbed his eyes and grabbed hold of the handle, pulling the door open.
Listen, if this is about the rent, I'll give it to you next.
Sombra's voice went still the second the door opened, his eyes going wide when he saw who was in front of him.
Weak.
He managed to finish as he took a step back, still trying to comprehend what was standing at the door. It had been over 1,000 years since the last time he saw her. She was taller, longer hair, and a slender body, but with all these new features, he still knew who she was. She was the girl he had fallen for, the creature who he had been with for so long, the beautiful monster he loved. He did nothing but stare at her. As for the tall, slender changeling queen, she could do nothing but sigh in annoyance at his expression. She ended up clearing her throat and saying something that confirmed Sombra's thoughts. "Hello, Sombra."
Chrysalis.
The past king could only blink in response, still trying to focus his eyes on her. Part of him thought this was a dream, while the rest of him knew he was wide awake. The creature in front of him just shook her head at this, continuing speaking. "May I come in?" Sombra blinked before nodding.
Oh, yes, come in.
He stepped out of the way to give Chrysalis enough room to walk in.
Please, make yourself at home.
He then noticed the state his apartment was in. Clothes on the floor, food on the table in front of his couch, books piled behind the table, and trash scattered almost everywhere.
Sorry about the mess. I didn't expect company.
Chuckling and shutting the door, but his laugh died down the longer her back was turned to him. With nothing but silence in the room, Sombra decided to ask first.
So, what brings you back, Chrissy? Did you come back to remember?
Don't call me that! Hearing that name is the last thing I want coming out of your mouth right now! Sombra didn't seem fazed by her tone, and smiled.
Oh, come now, Chris. What's wrong with that name? You found it adorable, didn't you?
Sombra, I didn't come here to be reminded of my past mistakes.
Then, are you hungry?
Asking with a raised eyebrow. Chrysalis held back her nasty words and tried staying calm. I didn't come here for that either. It was an absolute nightmare finding you to begin with. I thought for sure you were still in the frozen plains with nothing but a horn for a body.
I was for a while, but I was able to regain my pony form back and finding my way out, but I will say it was quite the journey. But I'm sure you came all the way for something special.
I came here for help, not memories.
But don't you remember when we first met at the library? When it was just you and me reading about the dark arts of magic? We were so young back then.
Sombra, listen to me when I say these words. Bending down so they were eye to eye with him. I don't care! The only thing I care about right now is you helping me destroy those ponies.
Destroy ponies? Oh, I get it. You want my help. Well, if there's anything I can do for my queen, it's helping her and her entire swarm deal with...
I don't I don't have them anymore. Sombra flicked his ears, thinking he heard that incorrectly.
You don't have an army?
I lost everything, Sombra. They took it all away from me.
Who did?
Chrysalis shot a glare at him. Who do you think? It was those wretched ponies. All of them. Every single one of them took away my children, my kingdom, my home, my last chance of finding food, my only hope at... Sombra was a little surprised to see her like this. In an effort to comfort her, he reached out.
Chrissy, why don't you tell me what happened?
The second Chrysalis felt the hoof on her shoulder, stopping her cries and quickly stepping away, not wanting any physical contact between the two of them. I'm sure you aren't aware of what happened to me a year ago, I take it. Sombra scratched his head.
If memory serves me right, you tried taking over a Camelot and ended up getting thrown across Equestria.
Yes, actually. How did you know?
A couple months after my demise, I heard about a certain changeling queen trying to take over Equestria on the news. Truth be told, I was going to find you, but I had a feeling if you wanted my help, you would have come for it, correct?
Chrysalis wanted to tell him she thought he was dead and that hearing about his death only fueled her plans for revenge. But she held back those words and said, Right, but did you know anything about what happened to me recently? Sombra thought harder.
The only thing changeling related I heard was about some bug coming into this town and being accepted into Pony Society. I thought it was just some plan you had, so I tried talking to him. But he's either a really good actor, or he just wasn't a part of your swarm. I take it it's the latter.
That bug betrayed us, but he's not my main concern. It's her.
Who? Twilight? Cadenza? That purple lizard?
Starlight Glimmer, Chrysalis said, sounding as if there was the foulest words that ever came out of her mouth.
Starlight who?
Sombra had never heard of the name. Starlight Glimmer. She foiled my plans. I had everything set up. It took every single one of them and brought them to my hive, taking them out of the pictures I prepared to take over Equestria. But little did I know, Glimmer and her ragtag bunch of friends ended up taking me down. I should have taken her out from the start. At least I was able to get away from them. Still don't know why they just let me go, though. Sombra had to back away from the angry queen.
Let me get this straight. You managed to pony nap every single pony you thought would stand in your way. But some other mare ended up defeating you. And after all that, they just let you fly away?
Dragging her hoof across her face. Her, that magic mare, that mutant goat, and that traitor child Thorax. He left the hive and now he's king of it.
A child of yours is now a king of your entire hive? I have to say that's some bad luck right there.
Tell me about it. At least I wasn't blasted to pieces like you. I wouldn't tell you how surprised I was to hear that from my children. Finally finished her story, she was curious on what he was doing. So, what have you done so far?
What?
Chrysalis went deadpan, hating to rephrase the question. What have you been doing to get revenge on Sparkle? Sombra blinked.
Revenge? Well, Chrissy, when you get blasted over 100 pieces, have your horn flung clear across Equestria, and have it land in the winter tundra for months on end, it Makes you think for a bit while your true form molds back.
About what? Chrysalis asked, dreading what he was coming at. Sombra shrugged.
I thought about a couple things, like what I was doing, what the ponies were going through, what my plans were about. I started thinking that maybe ruling over everything isn't cut out for me.
That's what you think? Why weren't you thinking about any of this when you were frozen for 1,000 years?
I went kind of insane during all that time. Not only that, but the dark magic was still kind of going haywire in my body. But now, I don't feel it anymore. It's like the blast took it all away from me. And now all that's left is this horn right here.
Tapping his still red horn, smiling.
I feel like a brand new stallion.
Chrysalis was about to yell again, but her eyes laid on an open book on the ground. Her eyes going wide when she read the title. What about this? She held up the work of literature with her magic that said in bold letters, "The Dark Side of Magic." Don't lie to me when I see it right here. Sombra took the book out of her grasp and closed it.
Hey, dark magic or not, it's still a pretty good read.
Chris's hopes were soon diminishing. But you can still control it, right? Sombra opened the book and flipped through the many pages, his eyes glowing with faint purple smoke coming off.
I think so.
Shutting the book, his eyes going back to their regular state.
But it's not like I'm gonna use it again. This stuff gave me some pretty bad headaches.
Chrysalis knew she had to get to the point. Sombra, I really hate saying this, but I need your help. I need that magic. Sombra put the book on a nearby cracked table.
But my life's been amazing ever since it got out of my life. I mean, look at where I live. Ain't it a great place?
Chrysalis didn't even need to look at his apartment to tell that that was an outright lie. She could even smell how awful this place was. You live in a rat-infested home that's barely big enough to support you. How could you choose this instead of a castle? Sombra crossed his front legs.
It's not a rat-infested dump. It's a roach-infested dump. I don't need some big castle to live my life in.
Chrysalis tried to think of something to convince him this was horrible. Then it hit her. The one thing Sombra loved more than anything else in the world. What about stairs? Opening his mouth to object, but shut it once he realized he had no stairs in the place. In fact, he was on the first floor of the complex. He hadn't climbed a single step in such a long time, taking this sudden realization in.
I don't need stairs in my life anymore.
Chrysalis narrowed her eyes, knowing the looks this pony gave to stairs were about as good as the looks he gave her. Sombra, this is pathetic. The only thing that I'm impressed by is how long you survived like this. I expected ponies to throw you in jail the second they find you. Hearing this, Sombra slightly wagged his tail, glad to hear he mentioned this.
Oh, I doubt ponies will know who I am with these.
Lighting his horn, teleporting a pair of reading glasses in front of him.
I took a page out of your book and enchanted these glasses to change who I am on the outside.
He demonstrated by putting the glasses on, smiling as he erupted in purple flames, changing into a normal pony.
Now no one screams at me when I go to the store to buy pudding.
Chrysalis smacked the glasses off his face, changing him back. Okay, 1. Green fur and a blue mane with purple eyes does not make you a normal pony. 2nd, are you telling me that you have not thought or attempted at getting revenge for what these ponies did to you? I mean, for Queen's sake, they blew you to bits.
It was kind of my fault to begin with, Chrissy. I did enslave a whole empire.
But you told me the only reason you wanted to take over the empire was because of the cruel ponies around you, and how much power you truly wanted. You even managed to control the power with the amount of hatred you had for those who bullied you. Rolling his eyes.
Yeah, but it wasn't really the way I should have gone about things. I mean, sure, they were very mean with all the name-calling, and the laughing, and the rude remarks, but I'm pretty sure they got what they deserved when I took over, and to me, that's punishment enough.
The queen's eye twitched. Sombra, I saw it in your eyes. You hated every pony who lived in the Crystal Empire. You wanted nothing but power and control over every single one. Sombra shrugged.
But I found out the ruling isn't cut out for me. I mean, what happens after everything? I'm pretty sure my kingdom would fall apart at some point in time. Heck, I had no idea what I was gonna do once they mined all the crystals in the city. Looking back at it now, it was a pretty stupid plan. I'm sure you've done things like that, right? Things that lead you to realizing it was your fault to begin with.
The gears in the queen's brain went off track after everything he said. I didn't do anything to deserve this, Sombra!
First stage is denial, Chrissy.
Chrysalis grabbed him by his neck and pulled him in. Listen here, you overgrown colt. I haven't seen you for 1,000 years, and when I heard you constantly talking about the crystals and the slaves you wanted when we were together, I thought you would become more powerful than anyone I ever met. And with that power, we could get revenge on all those who oppose us. Throwing him to the ground, glaring at him. But it would seem I was wrong. I was wrong with many things about you, especially what we had for each other. Sombra stood up, feeling a little offended.
Hey, that dark power took hold of me. It changed who I was. It wasn't my fault it told me that you would make me weak if you stayed around.
I was a princess at the time. A changeling princess who was learning to become a powerful queen, and all you were was a lone pony who sat in the library all by himself, with no one else to love you. You were nothing but a pathetic loser!
That's not... Okay, fine. It is, but I was different when it came to you. I gave you something that no one else ever gave you.
You gave me nothing but heartbreak after everything we've been through. I was left alone when you ran off to the Empire. You forced me to go back home and taught me that no one will ever love me. Her eyes flashing with growing rage. Sombra closed his eyes.
That's not what I gave you.
Then what? What great and amazing thing did you give me? A hug, a kiss, and I love you. Because nothing of that means anything after what you...
A chance.
Her horn fizzled and her eyes dimmed down. What? Sombra opened his eyes, turning his gaze to the queen.
I gave you a chance. A chance to be yourself. A chance to show who you really are. A chance to love. Chris, what did I say when I found out who you really were?
Even though it was a long time ago, Chrysalis knew the exact words, but she refused to say them. I don't remember.
I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I didn't call you a monster. I said, in the calmest and caring way possible, why are you here?
Chrysalis couldn't tear away from his gaze. You didn't even call me a monster.
I really cared about you, Chrissy. The real you. Not the pony you tried to be.
Not breaking eye contact, as he continued.
Now, let me ask you this. What did I tell the other ponies about you when they asked if you were the reported changeling spy?
Chrysalis turned away. Sombra. Sombra put his hoof under her chin, turning her head back to face him.
I said no, because I knew you were just an innocent creature who deserved a chance to love. Am I wrong?
Sombra, I don't.
Am I wrong?
Sombra said again, wanting to hear an answer, but the only thing Chrysalis did was step away, not looking at him. He sighed at this, knowing it was going to be personal.
Listen, Chrysalis, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to abandon you. I was too caught up in my plans to remember who I was to you. I didn't want to hurt you.
Chrysalis continued, having her back to him. But you did, Sombra. You left me behind and ruled that empire by yourself. And when I heard about how those two sisters sealed you away, I was beside myself. I didn't know whether to feel happy or sad. Mother told me just to ignore it, that you were nothing but food for us.
But I was more than that, wasn't I? I was a lot of things. A student, a geek, a reader, a cult friend, a lover.
Failing to hold back her smile. You were such an idiot back then as well.
Okay, I was that too. But I really cared for you, Chrissy. And I still do.
Turning toward the book, a wicked smile spreading across his face.
You know I'd do anything for you.
Smiling evilly, turning to Sombra. Then you'll help me? Sombra picked up the book and looked deep into his pages, his eyes starting to glow.
You want my help? You want my magic? You want my hoof in taking down those who took you down? Because I'll give you power that's stronger than anything you've ever seen.
Chrysalis held her head high. And what will you require of me in return? Shutting the book with a snap and closed his eyes, a purple mist coming from the sides. He could feel the anger again, the power he once had. He knew he could get it again, but not alone. With evil thoughts going through his mind, he looked up at Chrysalis with glowing green eyes.
Make Equestria burn for what they did to us.
Chrysalis started chuckling, Sombra joining in as well. It only took seconds for them to reel their heads back and laugh, knowing this would be the start of a new reign of terror through Equestria. A new day to rule over all who oppose them, a dark hour to take over. The laughter died down and Sombra turned to the door, his eyes shifting back to normal.
Who is it?
Yo, Mr. Sombrero, it's Mike. You got that rent check yet? It's been a while.
Sighing while Chrysalis smiled at him.
Your alias is Sombrero?
Mr. Sombrero. Now, excuse me for a second.
He picked up his glasses from the floor and putting them on, making his way to the door. Chrysalis just shook her head at this, knowing Sombra was still the same after 1,000 years.
Still an idiot. An adorable idiot.